Chapter 14. Not proud. Tonight, it was Sky's turn to cook, and earlier, she had noticed a clump of chives growing alongside the outside cabin wall, and decided they would be the touch she needed. She stepped outdoors and turned the corner only to come face to carcass with a hanging deer, and Dylan up to his elbows in it. Sky did an abrupt 180 and put her hand to her mouth. Sheesh, I think I almost lost my breakfast. Too late, she remembered Dylan saying something about his catch. Dylan gave an amused grunt. I got a deer. Not wanting to slight all his achievement despite her queasiness, Sky gave the most supportive answer she could. That's great. As much as I appreciate his hard work supplying the dinner table, seeing this firsthand, I can only think, poor little dear. Her cheery reply didn't fool Dylan. Sky's face had said it all when she'd turned the corner. Her typical city girl response seemed both funny and a bit disappointing to him. You want to eat, don't ya? Not now, I don't. I told you I was doing this. You didn't say right here. Sky jabbed her finger at the ground below her. Well, you're gonna be smiling about my skills when you sit down to dinner this winter and have something to eat. Sky sighed. He knows I won't be here over the winter. But now wasn't the time to remind him, so she changed the subject. So last night. Dylan cut her off. You gonna stand with your back to me then? Unsure if he was teasing, irritated, or something in between, Sky nevertheless determined to avoid facing the deer. Yes, I am. I may enjoy deer later, but I don't enjoy it like this today. Dylan chuckled as he watched her cross her arms and set her hip. Sky cleared her throat. So your brother? Yeah, he does go on. That is the understatement of the year. I had to send him outside. Dylan gathered up saliva and spit. Even from where Sky stood, the smell of the carcass filled her nose and mouth. She couldn't imagine having one's face so close. Yeah, I know, Dylan said. He woke me up and ran on some more about it. Sky couldn't hold in her giggle. Well, better you than me. You wound him up by telling him. You should have waited. Yeah, well, I didn't think it would come back on me. Sky laughed at his sour expression. I knew it. Sky pulled out her phone to find no service. Her mouth twisted in disappointment. Tom should call soon. Just in case, she tried dialing, but nothing happened. She pocketed the cell before cutting the chives she came out here to get, then waved to Dylan before heading back into the house. The smell of lemon cleaner drifted through the cabin, clearing away the deer's stench. Wade stood at the sink, scrubbing. His efforts didn't surprise her. She regularly saw Wade and Dylan with a wash rag or broom in their hand. Smells good, Wade, Sky said with a smile. Wade glanced over his shoulder at her. We grew up in a broke-down cabin. Something like this before we fixed it up. But that house was squalor, and I mean the full definition of the word. Dad most often had moonshine in one hand and the other in the waistband of his pants, if he bothered even to put them on that day. Dylan and I tried cleanin' up from time to time, but we never got nowhere. We ain't talked about the mess we lived in much, but when we found this camp, we patched it up and kept it up. We reckon it's not much, but we don't never want it like where we grew up. Don't talk your cabin down, Wade. It's a lot more than not much. You two have made it a home. I love it. The idea that she liked their home seemed to surprise Wade. Figured you were used to better than this. He waved his arm about. Ya smell of money. Wade wasn't wrong. Sky's home in Colton boasted large, beautiful rooms she decorated with care and updated with her favorite creature comforts. It awed some of her neighbors, but her home was nothing compared to her parents' house. Sky's mother came from wealth and wasn't afraid to use it. Sky was the first to admit, though, that she herself seldom held back when there was something she really wanted, but she was also aware that there was more to a home than awesome gadgets. Material things? Yeah, but that doesn't make it better. As a home, this is every bit as good as the one I grew up in. Sky gave Wade a warm smile. A bit of pink came to Wade's cheeks. Well, that's fine, I reckon. Just fine. This place means a lot. Wade's life had clearly held few compliments. Sky heard one loud stomp on the porch before Jesse came flying in. Coated in dirt, he ran through the living room to the bathroom. Sky giggled. The tub will be black tonight. Dylan stood by the still open door, filling a water bucket. Dirt, blood, and who knew what else also covered him. How Mom would squirm if she were here. On an individual level, all three of the males appeared to revel in the dirt. If they took a step outside, it seemed to magnetize to them. It was a rare day when she would see any one of them cleaned during working hours, but they settled for the night completely washed up. Sky returned to making dinner. She glanced at Wade as he stopped his cleaning to inspect the window pane. He was most often found around the cabin, walking the roof or with his legs sticking half out of a cupboard as he tightened this or that. Dylan, on the other hand, preferred the woods and willingly ran to any work or activity that required he be there. But there were many areas the brothers overlapped, like their love of cars. One or the other was always under the hood of Dylan's truck, and now, Sky's Jeep. Sky laughed to herself. Either the vehicles are in horrible repair, or they possessed the most spotless engines known to man. Now in the kitchen, Sky was a captive audience, and that was something Wade would never pass up. As she chopped and sliced, Wade told the story of the cabin with pride in his voice. I made everything in here from free junkyard parts or scraps from other people's houses, including the downspouts. The neighbors didn't mind at all we were fixin' this place up after we found it, long as we left them alone. How did you find it? Wade looked away from her. We came crossed it one day, is all. We found it and moved in. Just found it and moved in? Sky asked. Just like that? Wade shrugged. Yep. Just like that. How different our lives have been. This time Sky looked away. Her family always had so much, gave her a great start in life. Theirs had little and given them nothing, not even kindness. In so many ways, Wade and Dylan still had so little. She turned and scanned the room. Are they squatters on this land? Is that still a thing? But they've come a long way from their childhood. Doubtless, the happiest they've ever been is here in this little cabin. So you don't own it? Wade's huge belly laugh filled the room. No. Never owned nothin' in our lives except what we carried on our back. Well, till Uncle Pete gave Dylan that old truck out there. No, we was kids when we found this place, maybe 14 and 17. First, we just stayed a night here. Then Dylan said we should move out here. So, we did. It was a holy mess at first, but we settled in it anyway. Anything to get away, well, out of Dad's house. It helped us keep, you know. Your sanity. Yep, best thing we ever did. Neighbors said it had been sitting here a while. They didn't seem to mind us taking it over. Kinda took us in even, gave us food and the like every once in a while. Always wondered though if someone would show up and claim it one day. Guess that ain't likely to happen now. Wade smiled at the thought. Sky chuckled. I guess there is even a good side to the apocalypse. But I reckon what the best thing for us wasn't the best thing for our mom. This cabin was the beginning of her end. Sky stopped mid-cut on a potato. What do you mean? Wade stammered and shifted his weight. Well, I dunno. You ever done something you ain't too proud of? Yeah, Wade, I've done plenty. Scenes of the worst ran through her mind. Wade hung his head. He looked at the floor before looking at her. A girl like you? I bet it ain't all that bad. Well, I guess that depends on what you call bad. Tell me, he demanded. She stopped and turned to him, her voice low. Wade. Tell me. He was turning this into the ultimate truth or dare. Sky hesitated, her heart fell to her stomach at the thought of revealing her secret, but if she would ever be privy to their secrets, she would have to expose hers. Tell me. Wade demanded again. Some little indiscretion wouldn't do. Something weighed down Wade. He needed to see that others suffered in the same way, and she was close enough now to test her. Still, she didn't know why she was willing to tell him. Maybe because she kept her story shoved so deep inside for so long. Something she wasn't permitted to talk about, tried not to even contemplate, or maybe because now it didn't matter. They may all be gone now, anyway. It can't hurt her anymore, not that way, because they can't put her away. Sky nodded to Jesse when he asked to go out on the porch and turned back to Wade. It still ached to relive what she had done. Her body curled inward as she wrapped her arms around herself. Sky avoided Wade's gaze and bowed her head, her dark hair half covering her face. The house was quiet, so quiet now as Wade waited. Sky took a moment, listening to the tiny house pings and creaks that, at a normal time, passed unnoticed. She had no tears, the distress lay deeper than that now. Every morning she woke to it, and every night it tormented her as she slept. It was part of who she was. Sky took a deep, unsteady breath and let out a burdened sigh. Unable to face him, she turned back toward the sink and told him what he wanted to hear. I helped murder someone. Wade stepped backward but didn't say a word. Those words took Sky to that day, and she tightened her crossed arms. The flashing red and blue lights, flaming lights flying around her, bouncing away and back from the buildings that closed in on her. Wide-eyed terror, that is what she remembered. The ice-cold, hard metal hood of the police vehicle, pushing against her body as the police forced her over the car. The handcuffs tightening and closing, making that little click that seemed to close her off from the rest of her life. On that day, numbness groped its way through her, taking up residence in every part of her. She had hoped it would cut off all feeling, and maybe it did, except for the ache that lived on for such a long time. Sky shivered. It crept over her again now, the chilly fingers pulling at her, willing her to let the emptiness in. With a feeble push, Sky chased it away but not far. It skittered back to its normal distance, just within range of her mind's eye. She stared unseeing out the window as she told the story that appeared to her in flashes. College. Hazing, Sky explained. They were all doing it. They did it to me when I began. We all drank. Maybe a bump or two. The new ones, the ones trying to get in, they had to drink the most. We made them do stupid things, silly things, dangerous things. They were ours to play with as we wished. Sky trembled. I helped shut the car trunks. Not hers, I don't think, but a lot. They had to stay for the night in this creepy junkyard. High, drunk, people freaked out. They screamed as we drove away. Sky squeezed her eyes shut. I wasn't there when they opened the cars. They said she tried to claw her way out. Drinking, drugs, panic. I don't know, but she was dead. Perhaps her heart gave out, or she ran out of air. I asked no questions. I didn't want to know. Sky put her hands on the edge of the kitchen sink, forcing her shoulders up as she hung her head again. That is one thing I'm not proud of. Sky glanced at Wade. He looked stunned. He would assume a girl like her had it all. His voice turned grave when he asked, "Why ain't you in jail?" Sky blew out a quick breath. I was, for a little while, but I had wealthy parents and a powerful grandfather with connections. He got me out of it all. With her back still to Wade, she removed her hands from the sink and rewrapped her arms around her middle. Totally erased, can't even tell I ever was on the property. That's another thing I'm not proud of. All the others had to pay, and I should have paid too. Wade stayed silent, but Sky's ears pounded with the rush of her pounding heart. Her cheeks burned. What would he think of her now? Sky dragged herself around to face Wade. But his wasn't the first face she saw. It was Dylan's.